Hello everyone and welcome to Nailing Art with Lisa. Today's arting is a tribute to Technoblade. Our 1 year we've lost the king and legend, you will never be forgotten. Featuring our Super Sculpey and Cos Clay sculpture. Let me tell you a story about the legend of King Technoblade, the Blood God. Techno mastered many games and was a master strategy gifted gamer. He possessed a unique humor like, "Officer, I drop-kicked that kid in self-defense," and "that was the second worst thing that happened to that orphan." These will make you laugh so much. The Great Potato War with Squid Kid absolutely would capture the best of Techno's ability to filter out everything and see nanoparticles of information to give him the tiniest to the greatest advantage. His epic wins in many different gaming arenas will stand for all time. His incorporation of the art of war to Theseus will eternally bring a smile to my face. His exploits in the Dream SMP with the amazing group of Manberg are and will always be multiple viewing material. Watching him reveal the wall to the Wither Skull stash and the gazillion dogs for battle, again, master strategy. His 1v1 PV skills are deadly. His 1v mini PV skills also deadly. It was a thing to behold. You could hear the dialogue and almost see IRL how the episodes would be, friends and gamers together honing their craft. We can't forget, but we are all out of carrots, Phil. What are we going to do? We are all out of carrots. And no give carrots, only take. If you know, you know. I laugh so much. I cannot count the number of times I have rewatched his videos and the amazing animatics about Techno and his friends. Sadly, about 1 year ago, the world lost an amazing young man, Alexander Technoblade. A vicious cancer, sarcoma, was the reason. He was too young and left not only his friends and his gaming family friends and legions of fans. My thoughts are still with his family and friends. It seems so unreal and unfair. It is not enough to explain how terrible this loss has been felt by so many that never even met him in person. But through his videos, we all felt like he was a friend and we would all follow him no matter what he chose to do. There is a saying that only the good die young. He was very young. He raised a lot of funds for sarcoma research, and his father, Mr. Technodad, and friends have continued to do so in his honor. I will never forget about 1 a.m. My daughter woke me to show me the video, "So long, nerds." We both cried. She had asked when Techno revealed he had sarcoma, "Will he be okay?" And not wanting to take hope from her, I answered, "Anything is possible." The truth, I knew how vicious sarcoma is, and I have known persons with this terrible cancer. Outlook for these patients is not good, and with some other cancers, things can end a lot better. But sarcoma is generally fatal. I had wanted to make a sculpture of Techno long before he revealed his sickness and we lost him, but after the cancer announcement and loss, well, I put it on the back burner for a while. Then, hard to believe, 1 year has gone, and I had inspiration rewatching more Techno videos and listening to Phil tell Cheyenne about Techno on QSMP. Time to sculpt. This is my interpretation of Techno skin. Battle ready. To Mr. Technodad, thank you for raising a wonderful young man, sharing him with all of us. Thank you for keeping his legacy alive. We can see where his humor came from. I absolutely love Techno's laugh. Thank you for keeping Techno's channel up so we can hear it forever. When I'm watching and my kids come in, I will whisper, "Shh, Techno," and they laugh at me and I love it. My son walks by and I say, "Yo," and he answers, "Yo," with a smile. I'm sure there are many of us keeping Techno's memory alive in these small ways. Let us always remember his laugh, his yo, and his Technoblade never dies. Long live the legend of Techno. I enjoy sculpting. I love taking 2D drawings or even thumbnails that I've made and turning them into 3D sculptures. It's a fun process. It can be very tedious and at times frustrating, but it's very rewarding. It gives you a chance to exercise your brain and make just memories. It takes, you can sculpt very quickly, but also sometimes it takes a long time. The sculpture that I've done for Techno's memory took approximately a week, and that's from building an armature, which is a wire skeleton, to the final touches of paint. In TechnoSculpt, I have incorporated some UV resin little features for it. It'll be later in the video. You get to see. I was really excited. I found tiny little bottles that look just like potions bottles. So that's, as soon as I saw them, I knew what I wanted to use them for and I had to get them. But anyway, so I built his skeleton. I bulked it up with aluminum foil to get the basic shape, and then put a base layer of clay. Bake that so it's good and hard. That way you don't crush the features that you already have, and you can build on it a lot easier. This is how many people do it. I have done some where I've done everything in one go, and there's a constant frustration level because you keep squishing stuff. So that's not really advisable. But if you can do it, do it. It saves heating up your oven one time. Polymer clay is baked in an oven at a low temperature, and you bake it for 15 minutes for each 1/4 inch of clay thickness. So you have to kind of make sure you know how thick you've made the clay and how long you need to bake it. On the head, I just used a ball of aluminum foil, and I've used a bamboo skewer in order to suspend it so I could work and smooth and shape cheekbones and a jawline, and the brow for the forehead. You gotta do your indents for your eyes. Actually enjoyed making the little pig nose. I've never made a pig shape before, so I think it turned out really cute. Making the little nostrils with my ball stylus. Ball styluses they can be tiny, micro tiny, to huge, and you can roll and shape and smooth, or in this place, dig out some nostrils. So I worked on that for a little bit. Then I made a snake of clay to make his brow line, and I wanted to make him look not really mad, but intense and in concentration, getting ready to go into battle. You got to shape that out. And of course, you've got to have a lip so you can make some teeth, and then make some big teeth for the tusks. It's funny sometimes if you watch someone sculpt and you're like, what in the world? That is never going to work. But if you just give them a little time and a little time with their tools, I particularly like this spoon tool. It smooths very well, and it's got a pointed tip on the other end. It's not really, it's flat but triangular shape, so you can really do some awesome things with that. If you need to sort of cut into clay, you can take and shape and point out. I'll be doing a little bit here more with it. Here I'm using it to seat the boar tusks so that they're nice and pointy and intimidating. Silicone shapers, you can put wrinkles or just simply roll it gently to smooth out a small area. And of course, we've got to have some pig ears to go on here. So you get those put on, then again just smooth them into the other clay so they're ready to go. I think probably the spoon tool is one of my most favorite tools. I believe I've got this one from Amazon. Slowly shape it and get that formed into the head so that it looks in the right position. For the hair, I have used cos clay. You'll notice that it's gray. It's different than the Super Sculpey that you see, sort of a peachy color. The cos clay is gray, and I took the sharp end of that spoon tool and raked hairlines into it, like individual strands of hair. Cosclay is an amazing thing. When you bake Super Sculpey, it gets really firm and hard, but Cosclay stays a little bit malleable, so you can bend it without breaking it or destroying it. I wanted Techno's head to look like he's flipping around and his hair is flowing back, so I did this and put like hair bands on it and was kind of okay with it. And later on you'll see that I changed it because my daughter rolled up and looked at it and said, that doesn't look right. So I sat there and pondered on it for a little bit and decided to change it. You spend a lot of time rolling clay into flat sheets and getting it smooth, and then you cut your shapes and you measure them to see what they're doing. I thought multiple pieces of armor would be the look, so that they would be movable if you were in battle, running or lunging or kicking, whatever. So I used straps to look like that they were held on with, armor straps, probably leather looking. Made the top of his pants look like it went over top of his tail. You can take, even though this kind of looks like a naked form right now, but you take snakes of clay and you roll it on in various places, like say wrinkles in pants or a wrinkle in a shirt, anything like that. So it gives the illusion, but that way you don't have to put a whole lot of clay on to make it look like clothing and to cover up and finish out your sculpt. If you keep putting layers and layers and layers, it's just going to look too bulky. I wanted to sculpt a trim fit warrior type, battle ready, and that's why you don't want to bulk up too much and make them too thick, because you're trying to make a warrior, not the Stay Puft Man. All you need to do is build a ridgeline for the top of the trousers or pants, depending on where you're from, and you just shape it into the main bulk of your body that you've made. Same thing with the top for the armor, the lower part of that armor tunic. Just build up the bottom and smooth it into the torso to give you the bottom edge of your armor. I actually have one tool that one of the ball styluses fell out of the tip, so I use it as a tiny little rolling pin to smooth stuff out. And of course, across the chest, I'm putting big plates of armor to cover it up. The solution that I'm using in that bottle it's a bonding glue for clay to make it stick. I can't remember what the current's called. The original was Bacon Bond. It's made by Sculpey, and it helps adhere the new clay to the old clay, so that you for sure have it sticking and it doesn't fall off. I'm using my spoon tool to smooth the clay into the body and flare the edges out a little bit so you get some really nice 3D effect for it. There's the main part of the armor plate, the center part. You get it pushed in there, and of course you'll add straps later like that it would be held on to the body. There's all kinds of armor in Minecraft, and you can get iron armor, leather armor, gold armor, you can get diamond armor. The top armor will be your netherite armor, and then if you enchant it, it really you can really start getting into some super awesome tough armor that's going to last a long time. I did make bracers for his forearms and punched holes and put little strips of tiny little snakes of clay to make leather strips. I guess in in ancient times it would be like sinew to tie the leather together to keep a warrior's, bracers on during battle. Cinch them up, make them good and tight. I thought that Techno should have a little bit of a scruff beard on the bottom of his jawline. The spoon tool has, again, the metal edge that you can slowly shape, and it starts looking like hair fibers. So I go all the way on and get that going, and then shape them out to look like a little beard. I think it would be a nice little addition to his jawline, help define that. And most ancient warriors, at least in my imagination, have a beard on there, because they don't have time to shave, they're busy fighting. Give his neck a lot of veining and thick muscles, make it look like he's gritting his teeth and getting ready to go into battle. Finished out his collar, and you can see that the hair that I had liked at first, after my daughter told me that it didn't look good, so I went back and added more cosplay on top of that to bulk up the hair and flare it out more. And I will have like one hairband at the base of the tail, the ponytail to his head. But again, I wanted to keep, I had armature wire sticking out of the head so that I could make it flare out and look like it's turning as he turns. I did leave this one part in. I shaped a crown that I thought would look pretty cool, and I think it did look really cool. However, once again, my daughter came through and goes, "Mom, that doesn't look right. It's too big for his head." And so I was like, okay. And I sat and looked at it and pondered it a little bit. And yeah, it was too big. So I did remake the crown. There's video of that on in here, but I think I did not capture as I was sculpting it. Technoblade had this amazing battle strategy in one of the Dream SMPs, to where he had this whole hidden wall with a redstone door, and he had all of these wither skulls. He had grinded and gathered all these skulls for this battle. You need 3 skulls and some soul sand, and you can stack them up in a certain configuration, and you can spawn a wither. So I thought it would be real fun to have 3 skulls with him. Look, he's ready to spawn a wither. So I added those to the sculpture, one in his hand, and I'll have 2 hanging from his belt. I had to make him a sword. I did consider, should he have a sword, an axe, or a pickaxe? But I finally went with the sword because I think that's a main weapon, and I will make that, shape it. I used the spoon tool trying to get like a double edge, a double sharp sword. I did make the pommel, tried to shape that out, and the handle wrapped with a snakes of clay to make it look like leather cording. So I don't know if the sword needed a little bit more detail, but I think I like the overall look of it when I was finished with it. There's a turnaround of Techno to show you like where I was with the sculpture at this time. I did make his feet as pig feet and not, boots, typical boots for Minecraft. I just wanted to carry the theme all the way down to his toes. And this particular one, I crafted a cape, a king's cape, while I was at it. And I had spent so much time smoothing out all of this clay to make his armor. And my son comes through and goes, "Mom, the armor's too pristine. You really need to rough it up and look like it's been in battle." So I spent quite a bit of time with a silicone shaper, going through it and marking it like he had, been battling and taking hits with swords or whatever the battle weaponry is. Once you get your sculpt the way you want it, you need to bake it in the oven again, using your measurements of how thick the clay is and for the time. After this, you need to base coat your entire sculpture and get it ready to receive the paint you're going to do. I base coated mine in a gray, since the armor is a large part of this. I thought that would be the best color to start with. Of course, I give him some peachy pink skin. I think it looks pretty. It's more pink, I suppose. And of course, his tusks and teeth are going to get white. His hair would be pink, and his beard. So I get in there and get some nice shiny white on there. The wither skulls are going to have a series of paints put on them. They will be black and gray, and then I'll kind of wipe them off a little bit and get some more gray in there, and then finally I'll get the blacks to highlight the eyes and the nose, the teeth, and the little cheek cutouts. I went back and forth on what to do with Techno's eyes, what color. I kind of settled on a real bright battle red. When I paint the armature, not the armature, the armor, there we go. The armor for this, I go over it with a wash of black paint. I do use Folk Art paint mostly. They have a large color selection that does really well, but I wanted to thin it out some, so I got it all covered with the black wash, and I went over it with a gray dry brush technique. If you don't know what that is, you get a little bit of paint on your brush, and say with a paper towel, you kind of dab it and scrub it to where there's very little paint on it, and you do brush strokes. And what this does is, with the battle armor where I've put damage into it and scars and marks, you drag the brush over it lightly, and it will highlight all of those raised areas really well, but it will leave the deep parts dark, so that you can see all of all of your hard work that you've put in the detail of this. With the netherite armor, if you enchant it, at least in the current version of Minecraft, it kind of glows purple or shimmers purple. So Folk Art has really awesome color shift paints. So I took the purple color shift, and again with the dry brush technique, I went over the armor that we have, and I dry brush purple here and there to give it that nice shimmer effect. And where it is a color shift, when you turn it, it does have a rather pleasing effect to it. I did get all of that. I didn't cover his feet in boots, like I said, so he doesn't have armor on his feet. I made an emerald for his earring, and I couldn't find jump rings small enough, so I took my jewelry wire and made tiny jump rings and made earrings for his emerald and his loops that I made for his ears. And I have his little crown that I painted gold, and in each section I put red, green, blue, or purple. And there's a product called UV resin, and it's really fun. I put a drop in each well where the paint is, and use a UV light, and you hold it over, say, for 40 to 60 seconds, and they cure hard. So, but the way that it magnifies the color underneath, it looks like gemstones. So I got his gemstone crown, And like I said, I did redesign it, made it smaller and a little more pointy, and it was better. In the end, it was better, and it was good advice. My kids do give, sometimes it's brutal criticism or critique, but it is helpful. Sometimes when you're in it, you can't see that something's wrong, or you feel that it is, but you kind of can't feel like how to fix it. But I also added a tiny bit of UV resin to his teeth, and they're called nares, or his nose holes, so that they look wet. I found these amazing little glass bottles at Hobby Lobby, and I have the powder that glows in the dark, and it's actually rave powder that they fling on people so that they glow in the dark. Once the stuff charges, it stays charged for quite a while. So I took my tiny little bottles and put more of the UV resin in there, and then I placed it's called Glow-Minex, the Glow-Minex powder in there, and stir it up. The first bottle I did, I also put a few drops of the purple color shift from Folk Art in there. So it's a mix of glow-in-the-dark powder and the color shift paint. And again, you just hold the UV resin light on it and it will harden. And that way, if the bottle ever for any reason turned over, it couldn't get out. But I love those tiny little corks. Then I found a large jump ring in my stash, and it made a perfect stand for this. So the second one, again, more UV resin, and then this one I used green fluorescent glow powder, and get all that down in there. I used just some scrap paper that I had laying around to make a little funnel chute to get it in there. It's really fun when you stir up this stuff because it is hard to incorporate it, so you really got to go at it with a toothpick to get that mixed up. Typically, I've done it in bigger batches of stuff, like in a jar, and then poured it in, but I wasn't real sure how to get all of that into that tiny little bottle, so I did. It's going to glow beautiful. So I put it on there, and that one is awesome and ready to have its UV light to get cured, harden up so it doesn't ever leak out of there. These are, I found this portion of it to be very fun. I do like UV resin. I've not dealt a lot with the long term or the long cure resin. That's something I hope to play with at some point. I did leave wires in his belt, and this was simply pre-planning to have holders for the potions bottles, and you just hold them and wrap the wire around them. Later on, I did place a tiny bit of glue around the wire toward his belt on both of them so they can't come off. The glue I used was E6000, and that's also what I used to place his crown on his head to keep that on there. So I think the crown turned out really well. I like the way that it looks. It's not perfectly shaped, but that's kind of okay too. But I do like the effect of it and the aesthetic. So the sword also got the dry brush of the color shift, and have it all put together, and kind of, when you're working on artwork, you step back and look at it, or if it's a 3D art piece like this, a lot of times you'll have a lazy Susan or something, or you'll just simply turn it around and around, trying to look at it from different angles to see what you've got and how it looks. And you're like, well, like when you get to the point, you're like, wow, that looks great, or I'm good, or you can do any adjustments that you want at this point. I really just love the wither skulls and the potions. I think those look really cute with this. And I had made a cape to go with Techno, his king cape. Well, I had made it and forgotten that I had done this before I reshaped his hair. So I had to chuck that one and throw it aside, make a new one, because I couldn't get it on his shoulders, the old one. So this one I made with the collar in 2 pieces so that I could get that on there. And as you can see, sometimes when you're gluing something, you need a little bit of support, so you use whatever you've got lying around. To me, it was some of my sketchbooks and some foam to hold it in place. I had a little trouble getting his cape to stay on because the glue didn't want to work. So I drilled some holes and used some bamboo skewers and then painted over top of it so it fixed it. I hope that you enjoy the sculpt and my tribute to Technoblade. Thank you for stopping by with us and have a great day.